Final day of February 28th, and we didn't get him around Valentine's Day. I got love for Tim Kawakami. Nobody covers Bay Area sports better than him, and it's been a while since we've had you on, Tim. Thanks for your time today. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing just fine, Damon. I just remembering the last time we kind of were checking in and had me on, I was doing something else at the time. I couldn't tell you exactly what was happening. That's right when I was going to the San Francisco Standard. It's like I kind of got some things I got to line up at the time. So let's do it later, and we got the time now. Great to be talking to you, Damon.
It is great to talk to you. And hey, congratulations to all the early success you guys are having at the Standard. Adding John Shea, certainly a feather in the cap to any sports department. He's already in Scottsdale getting to work. You and Lombardi do a great job covering the 49ers. So keep it up, man. You guys are building Voltron over there.
Yeah, it feels good. Shea was such an important hire. Baseball is such, it's not the number one sport. The Giants aren't the number one team, but it's the constant. It just keeps going and going and going. And John's such a great hire. Feel really good about that. I've already written a couple stories that have done really well. They're just good stories. It feels really good to feel the sports staff's really coming together now.
Well, with football being the engine that powers all sports, everything, I assume that with all the news coming out of the Combine in Indianapolis, that's where we would start. But then Steph Curry became Steph Curry once again last night. And we got to start there, Tim, since it was just, it's the last thing we saw on the anniversary of the double bang game in Oklahoma City. He drops a season high in 12 threes and is a one-man army down in Orlando. Quentin Post took the role of running mate with Steph Curry last night. He was impressive. Look, this Butler thing has the arrow pointed in the right direction. Kuminga's not even back yet. Steve Kerr insists on playing with Joy. We haven't seen Joy in a long time. We're seeing it now. Tim, what are we looking at? How substantive do you think the end of this Warrior season is going to become for us here?
Yeah, I think put in the terms that they were using before the Butler trade, Steph just said he wants to play meaningful basketball. He wants to be relevant. And it sounded like kind of echoey back then. Like, can you really do that? Is this happening? Because it wasn't real relevant back in, late January, mid-January, all that period. They were just around 500. They're a very mediocre team. They've put themselves into relevance. They are a relevant basketball team for the rest of the season, forever long it goes. I know the standard is higher than that, but that was very, very important for them to get to, for Steph to get to. Do you expect this to get to a title? I don't know. I don't think so. These are older guys. You're not going to. Jimmy Butler kind of threw an egg up last night. It didn't matter because of what Steph and other guys were doing, but that happens in a playoff game. That might be a problem, and it does happen. Steph might throw an egg up. Draymond might throw, some problematic games up there. They're older players going through a long playoff run. If assuming they're getting in playoffs, I think we all assume that now. But they're dangerous. They're always dangerous with Steph Curry. That was always the point. And people from outside or even angry Warriors fans would get mad at me when I say, you got Steph Curry, you got a shot. Like you'd go in a playoff series with Steph Curry like they did against Sacramento 2 years ago. And they knocked off the 3 seed because Steph just went crazy in Game 7. This is important to understand. You did need to add other pieces around him. The Jimmy Butler thing just has kind of reorganized, kind of winnowed down, kind of really focused the whole thing. He's not doing spectacular things, but that's what Steve Kerr loves. He's doing basic things. He's just being a supporting player. He can go get free throws. He can go stand up and beat help side defense. They're going to need a 36-point game or two out of him down the stretch. There's no question. And he hasn't come close to that. I mean, we'll see. He promises that he still has that in him, and playoff Jimmy has been a real thing. I don't dispute that that's probably out there, but we haven't seen it and hasn't been in him for a while, but we'll see. I think just Steph Curry needed that support. It's more like emotional support almost. It's basketball support and it's emotional support. There's other people here. I'm not out here alone. And then we've seen the elevation from Steph for that. It's since Clay stopped ceased to be a really dominant potential player. Steph hadn't had that. And, they still won a title in 22 because they had other pieces kind of fit in perfectly in 2022, but it was really hard to duplicate that. Now he's got somebody like, okay, I can just turn the ball over to him. 5-minute span, Jimmy, run this thing. I'm not worried. I'm not having to go crazy every other minute I'm out there because I know you can, just keep things going. We don't get slaughtered. And it's a mental thing, I think, for Steph too. Like, it's an easiness that he can approach every game. And then within that, then he can explode. Then
The through line of Warriors' success and failure, the through lines of the entirety of the Steve Kerr, Steph Curry era have been free throws are non-existent and turnovers happen way too much. This is even in championship years. So, they sort of convinced themselves that these things were less important to shore up than they really are. Jimmy has shored up these two topics more than I think Kevin Durant would have even shored him up.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's better than Kevin, but it feels like he is the right fit. And because of the right fit, less burden goes on to Podziemski to be that right fit, and he can find his level. Moody, find your level. You don't have to be more or less than what you really are. Everything's fitting better since Jimmy showed up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, listen, Steve Kerr's wanted them to be able to draw fouls and get to the, and convert at the rim. They just haven't had the players to do that. And what they have, I don't know if it's dawned on them, but became very evident, is they could not survive without it. They had so much talent in the past where you didn't necessarily need that stuff. You didn't need grinders, just somebody who slammed into somebody's shoulders, get the foul, stop the game, allow yourself to set the defense, shoot the 2 free throws, get the other team in foul trouble. They need that now because they don't have that other stuff. They don't have Kevin Durant. They don't have Andre Iguodala in his prime. They certainly don't have Draymond Green in his prime. They need other ways to play. And they thought they did it with Dennis Schroeder. They really did. Not this level, but they thought he was going to be a successful player in another way. He was terrible. I was the one saying they should get him. So I'm going to put this on, whatever. It theoretically could have worked. He was awful.
The guy that they traded for isn't the guy who showed up.
No, it was, I don't know. That happens sometimes. We always have to, understand that. But look at Jimmy Butler shows up here and it's just boom. That's who he is. The Warriors take off with him. His game is his game. Dennis Schroeder. There's other players. And, we talk about it on Warriors Plus Minus Marcus and I most all the time. Omri Caspi showed up in 17 and he just stopped shooting. He couldn't shoot when he was on the team with Steph Curry and, Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Dennis Schroeder, something happened. I don't know what it was. He just got a glaze in his eyes. He could not shoot, did not want to shoot, could not finish. And that stopped them. That stopped them in their tracks. They had to try to turn it over. They did not want to give up a bunch of picks, and they wanted to give up Kuminga. They would have given up Kuminga for Durant, of course. But they did not sacrifice a ton of their future. They got Jimmy Butler. All they did was pay money, right? I talked to Joe Lacob, and he basically said, all we did was go all in on money. Didn't go on picks, didn't go all in on giving up young players. They kept most of their assets so they can still do stuff. And don't take your eye off of Kevin Durant in July. I'll just put it that way. I don't know if he'll want to come. I don't know if they'll be able to do it. This is a team that loves Kevin Durant and might try to go get him again.
How about this? If Kevin Durant says no a second time, no more jersey retirement for you, buddy. You don't get up to the rafters. We'll still put you up, but we'll put you kind of behind another thing, and you won't be able to see it. Yeah.
This is a team that still has options, that loves optionality, that wants to get into stuff. Durant isn't the only guy isn't the only guy they could be chasing. There's a Giannis, there's other guys, but that's what they love. They've done this. They've added this rocket boost. And they still haven't denied themselves the chance to do either re-sign Kuminga, which obviously could be a huge thing. You get him back this season. Let's see how it goes. I think he really could fit what they're doing now. Or you could package all this stuff, including Jimmy Butler's contract, and go get somebody else in July. This is how smart, rich teams operate. They have an advantage. It's the money. They have another advantage. It's Steph Curry. Guys want to play with him. Maximize it. Don't just sit back and say, oh, you know what? This is fine as we're going. And then again, fans can be fans. I understand that they get furious and they're not maximizing Steph Curry's prime. You think they don't want to? They want to. They just had not done it successfully.
First of all, they maximized the shit out of his prime. You won 4 titles.
In 22 was 22. The championship of 22 was their answer. They won one without Kevin Durant. They kept their young guys. It's not an answer for fans. I understand fans always wanted more. And many of these fans did not go through any of the previous years where they were terrible. I get that. But I'll just say, I know Joe Lacob. I talk to him all the time. He wants to win a championship more desperately than any of these fans do. It's just, can you do it properly? Can you do it within the realm of not destroying yourself in 3 years? And they kind of did it with this Jimmy Butler thing. It might not work ideally, and he might have another blow up in a year or two. That's always possible. they're not stuck with him forever. They
Right.
signed him for another year, extended him off his option year. All they did was go in money. That's what they did. That's a big thing, right? Money. That's a big thing. In their minds, it's not a big thing. So they utilize that to their advantage. Money is not that big an issue to them. So they press their advantage on money to make the bet on Jimmy Butler. And so far, 7-1. Can't say it was wrong.
Like my dad always said, if you can't be rich, have rich friends. And if you don't have any rich friends, hopefully the team that you root for has a very wealthy owner who wants to win. And the Warriors do indeed have that. They got options. Hey, Tim, you know how it works over here. We got to do a little business. And if you want options, get to Ike's. Ike's Sandwiches has been sponsoring Damon Bruce Plus since we launched. I thank Ike so very much. And you will thank Ike too when you go in and get a delicious sandwich. Hundreds of locations all over the West Coast, expanding eastward. Find an Ike's near you. Hopefully there will be one soon. And if there's not, consider moving. It is that good. The Dubliner West Portal, that's my bar. Those are my guys. Dubliner West Portal, best Guinness pull. Tim, when can I buy you a Guinness at the Dubliner and West Portal?
Oh, sure. Let's do it.
You would like that an awful lot. And man, you want to have a little extra something to tip? Hit a few parlays over on BetUS. Always gamble responsibly. But when you do it on BetUS, use promo code YouTube150 for 150% off your sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. And that's how we pay the bills around here. Now, if you are talking sports and you're not talking NFL, no one's paying attention these days. So, Tim, we need to get to Indianapolis here and talk about the fact that it is lying season. John Lynch had to fly all the way to Indianapolis to get the same questions he gets about Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Dre Greenlaw that he gets every day in Santa Clara. But he's under a little bit more duress to actually give a decent answer when he's at the Combine. And it sounds like they really want Dre Greenlaw back for the first time. I mean, they're opining and talking about how important he is through the eyes of Robert Saleh. Do you think it happens? Let's just start with Greenlaw, try to separate the lies from the Combine BS here. I think they really do want him back. Would they go to a third year if that's what it took?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend what the market is. That's what the whole thing with him is. I think they've always wanted back what he means to that locker room, what he meant for that one half of football plus that we saw of him. But you got to be careful because injuries killed them last season. And you don't want us to start re-signing injured players because injuries are the most, clearest sign of future injuries. You just don't want to continue to add on guys who are coming back from injury because some of the guys are not going to come back from injuries and then other guys are going to get hurt. I think they should bring him back. But listen, if another team is willing to make him their top paid linebacker, 49ers can't do that. They got Fred Warner. There's only so far they can go. There's only so many years. I don't know what any team's going to guarantee him 3 years. They might guarantee him 1+ at a pretty good number. I think the 49ers would go to a decent number, but they got that one. They got to be careful. I love Dre Greenlaw. I love him as a person. I think he's wonderful to talk to. He is the spirit of that team. Again, you saw it in that one half that he played, but it's one half. And he was moving around really creakily after that one half. Like, this is a guy who, he's been through something really major with his leg. So I think if another team is going to, again, pay him as a number one linebacker, he's going to go to another team. I think the 49ers are accepting that. They cannot pay him like a number one linebacker. They don't know that he's going to be that guy. And they also have Fred Warner. Now, do they have a replacement? Not really. That's the football reality, but I just don't know that they're going to start stacking up injured guys. That's a really tough place to be. And in another question, an answer from another question, Lynch talked about how much money they've paid out, and again, not cap money. They're under the cap, but in cash money, bonuses they paid out to lengthen out deals to flatten the cap number against everything else. They're way at the top. They've been at the top. We know the players they've got. We know the restructures they've made, and they haven't got a lot out of it. Christian McCaffrey restructuring did not work out well for them last season. Probably will be fine this year. We'll see. Trent Williams, another restructuring, another bunch of cash they paid. I just don't think they want to get into that. Brandon Aiyuk I've written this several times. I keep hearing this. They regret that deal. Maybe not Lynch and Shanahan, but they're not the ones negotiating. It's the top of this franchise. And they got very little out of Brandon Aiyuk. Now he got
Do you put any gravity behind the rumor that teams are approaching the 49ers about Brandon Aiyuk? Again, a player that I like, but a contract I would definitely get out from underneath if I could. I think the 49ers have to do that deal if they can find somebody to take Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I think teams are calling because I think they understand 49ers are still pissed at him. Again, I'm not saying Shanahan and Lynch. I'm saying other people. But they really, you give them that deal, you can't trade them. I mean, the salary spike would be ridiculous because you are trading all the guaranteed money and it accelerates on your cap immediately. It'd be very hard for them to do that. Plus, they don't have Brandon Aiyuk. So, like, if they're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk, and I don't dispute that it could happen, it's going to happen in a year or two when the cap hit would be just a little easier to deal with. It's very hard to do it now. It's the same thing with Deebo. You give out these big deals, and you're not trading the deal. You're trading the deal, and you're getting the accelerated cap hit because you paid the bonus. Again, they're paying bonuses to lessen the early cap hits. Well, those accelerate all at once when you trade the guy, if you do, or you cut a guy, and you're kind of stuck with them. You know, you make these deals, you're kind of stuck with the players for a little while. I imagine teams are calling the 49ers. What if we can get a bargain? You're mad at Aiyuk. I'm sure there's been grumbling by 49ers people about the Brandon Aiyuk deal. Again, I've been writing about it. They're pissed. They were furious when it happened. Again, not Shanahan and Lynch. I want to make this very clear. Other people. I think we know their names. And
rhyme with Jed? Does it rhyme with Jed?
Yeah, he writes the checks. He writes the checks. And listen, I've ripped Jed plenty, but after a 6-11 season and he's paid the money he's paid out, he's going to be pissed. And I understand that. And they were not happy with the deal when it happened, and they were really not happy when he didn't play very well to start the season, and then he gets hurt. Not his fault, but I think there's great regret about the Aiyuk deal, and I think there are very powerful people in there that wish they traded him instead of giving him that deal. You can't get out of it though. Once you give it to him, that's a more regret. Like they can't get out of this deal without incurring massive cap penalties. So I'm pretty sure they'll keep him.
I think most people watching us right now know most of the background between the 49ers and Deebo and why this relationship is disintegrating. I am stunned that the team doesn't say, because it feels like they've made excuses to keep him around in the past. Why have they reached their point of no return now? I'm a big believer that Ray Durham's going to have a good year in a contract year and a walk year. I think Deebo might have a little bit of a better year in a contract, show me something year, but it just feels like they can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. What happened? Why did it go so sour?
I think you got, again, the split here. I'm not saying that it's two different sides. There's two separate things happening. You have the football side, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and Deebo has been one of Kyle's favorite players, period. He says it outright and saved the season in 2021. And we know how good he was that year. Got a little tense in 2022, didn't play so great after he got the contract, was better in 2023 and was terrible last year. And I just think the equation is that he's a declining player at 29 that the front office is kind of pissed at too. And 6-11 changes a lot, Damon. It really does. Like they wanted to push to win a Super Bowl while Brock Purdy was on a rookie deal, on a super cheap rookie deal. That did not happen. And there were going to be some repercussions. I think it's been pretty stark. It's been happening faster. I'm the one writing about it. I'm kind of monitoring it. It's happened fast. Like you can get the tone of this. I just think you've seen a souring towards deals that they regret. And I think they regret the Deebo deal also. It was a couple years ago, then they restructured it again. And then the production. Like it's a production league. It's what have you done for me? And if you're 25, okay, accept it that maybe you decline. You'll be better when you're 26. When you're 28, 29, and you're a receiver, and I've reported this and gotten Deebo mad, but I've heard this again and again. He was 20 pounds overweight at times last season, which might explain the lack of explosion, the lack of dynamic playmaking. We all saw it. He just didn't do it. He did it for one game, the Miami game, and that was it. I just think there becomes an accumulation where one side was a little skeptical of the deal, and now like, look, this is what we did. We accepted what you're telling us about him. We forgave him for a couple off years, or certainly one off year, not two off years. And the weight gain and the money, and they were not going to pay him that option bonus. They're just not going to pay him $13.4 million. That's part of this too. You can put that into, money they got to kind of store up for Purdy because they're going to have to guarantee him a lot of money. You have kind of a tilting thing going on with players' production, popularity, and then when you win, it kind of goes up one way towards the players' popularity side, and then when you lose, it kind of goes the other way. And I think 6-11 and Deebo having zero, no major production except for one game, just tilted in the way of the hard line, and the hard line is growing more influential there. It absolutely is. I keep writing about it. It's true. Like there's going to be some tougher looks at things, and there's going to be players who aren't forgiven for things. Now, listen, they've cut they traded Buckner in the heyday. They cut Armstead. They reduced Juszczyk's salary. They've done this hardline thing in the past. I think we're going to see more of that and less of the, okay, we buckle. We need this player to win the Super Bowl. Let's just pay him what he wants. Those deals are probably over.
All right. Don't say best player available. I will hang up on you.
I don't think I ever say that. Yeah.
But let's talk theoretical draft here. In your mind, what would be the best way for it to play out? Are you to me, trench warfare is the theme of this draft for the 49ers if I'm them. I would love to add Drew Dolman in free agency as a center. That's a big price point. I don't know if they can do it. I would be looking D-line and O-line across the first few rounds before I started tinkering with the fun pieces who play on the outside, wide receivers, running backs, corners, linebacker. To me, it's all about trench warfare. How are you feeling they're going to approach this?
I think they're going to take a defensive lineman because that's just what they do, and they really could use one. I'm not sure 11 is the right spot for it, though, so that's why I start wondering, maybe do you start talking trade for one of these defensive ends who might be available? I wrote about that. I don't know what's going to be available. They do need to get younger. You do have to understand 11's a good pick. Just don't know that defensive lineman is the perfect pick. We'll see. I think Walter Nolan from Ole Miss seems like a body type that could fit really well in their defense. We'll see. I would go tackle. I would go offensive tackle myself, but I don't know that they have not really done that. They tend to not want to take a tackle at that premium spot unless they're sure he's an all-pro. I've heard that Penei Sewell, those guys, but there isn't one of those guys available. Certainly wouldn't be at 11. I would take a tackle. I think you need to get tackles, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just kind of need that body type on the roster, and they're lacking there. Certainly, with Trent Williams days counting down, that means if he goes down, or if he's out for a year, if he retires, and you do not have that replacement sitting there, I don't think they're going to take a tackle. I just don't think they think what they're going to end up with at 11 would be the right move to take a tackle. My guess is a defensive lineman. My guess is that maybe the second defensive tackle. I think they'd love Mason Graham from Michigan, but he's likely to go 4, 5, 6 in there. 11's a weird spot in this draft, which is why, again, I think trade it just seems to be like Tyler Warren, another tight end. You can see Shanahan kind of liking that. I am intrigued by that, but it's a little high to take a second tight end when you have George Kittle still in his prime.
It's going to change your offense an awful lot if you do.
Yeah,
you're going to be
listen, the guy scores touchdowns. The guy does a lot of interesting. I would not bash that pick if he's there and they take him, but man, you got some holes there. You're right. Line of scrimmage. Line of scrimmage is where they've won when they've been really good. They have tailed off on the defensive line for sure. When with Bosa or when Bosa's been out, they have not been a premium defensive line. They could use something major there, and maybe they'll decide one of these guys is the right guy at 11. I just think the investment is due on the defensive line in their minds, and I think that's what it'll be, whether it's the draft pick or whether it's trade the pick to get a really top defensive line. If I say a name, it'll get aggregated. I've already thrown out some names on the call.
Well, let me just do that. Let's make it a little simple here, because I think that the price of the liquor that Myles Garrett is going to be serving is too expensive for the bar that the 49ers are walking into. I don't think it's going to be Myles Garrett. Max Crosby is over Mark Davis's dead body. Will he be traded to the 49ers? So that's not happening. That brings us to maybe Trey Hendrickson, maybe Joey Bosa on a friends and family to play with his brother. I think that might be the most realistic. It also comes with the most risk.
Yeah, that's why you probably get him for nothing. Like, he's probably gonna get cut. I've heard he could be a cap casualty with the Chargers, or at least they're going to present it to him that way. And he takes a pay cut, or they cut him, and maybe he'll want to stay. Things are going well there. Obviously, he'd like to play with his brother. I've heard that for years, but he's missed a ton of games. This is why you get him for free, if they do get him for free. That might be an answer, but an answer with your fingers crossed, because you don't know how many games he's going to play. Forever he's healthy, he and his brother will be two very, very interesting bookends to watch during games. Crosby would be the ideal one. Again, you do have the Mark Davis, and Pete Carroll's the coach there. You think Pete Carroll wants to trade him to the 49ers? Probably don't want to do that. But that's the one. Age is right. If I could give up the 11th and a third, whatever, and I think they would have the money to pay him in the future. yeah, you're right. Mark Davis didn't trade him Khalil Mack back in 2018. He's probably not going to want to trade him Max Crosby. I don't know if Max Crosby is going to want to force the issue there anyway. And I agree with you, Myles Garrett is just the cost of that. You'd have to pay him more than Bosa, and you'd have to give up more than the 11th pick. That becomes, you have to do it because he's really good. That's part of the equation. But I don't know if they're in the position. I think they'd be interested. This is who they are. They're interested in these kind of players, especially premium defensive linemen. But that one might be a tough one. And he's 30. He's not like he's 26. So Trey Hendrickson, we'll see what that would, I don't think Cincinnati can sign all three guys, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Hendrickson. Can you pry yourself into that one? I know they've liked him in the past. I'll put it that way. I know they've liked Hendricks in the past. Does not mean they can get him. But I think that's what the thought process is. What can they get 11 in the draft? Can they get somebody they really like? Okay, you keep it. If they don't think it's that case, that was part of the Warriors' calculations with the Butler trade. They did not love the picks, so they were fine giving up that protected pick. It wasn't of that value. They wanted to keep their future picks. Maybe 11's got a lot of value to the 49ers. Maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, then you could see them putting in a package. Can you get a better player at 11 than Trey Hendrickson? Probably not. Maybe value-wise, maybe youth and all those things. But I think that this is going to come down to what they really, really, really think about all these guys that may end up at 11. And are they just going to bypass that and go get a veteran? It's an interesting decision, and I don't think it's an easy one because I look at the set of players that could be available there, and I don't see a direct fit according to me. Doesn't mean according to them they don't feel that. They thought Javon Kinlaw was the perfect fit at 14 or whatever it was, and it didn't turn out right. So you make your bet, you roll your dice, you see what you come up with. I think the likeliest scenario is they end up with defensive linemen. I'm just not sure whether it's going to be via draft or whether trading that thing.
Let's wrap up with this, brother, because I know you're a busy guy, and let's face it, we're about 90 minutes to 2 hours away from an East Coast Friday news dump, which always means you're going to have to pedal a little harder on a Friday afternoon on the West Coast to get all that bullshit in the next column. But we are playing baseball down in Scottsdale. There is zero fanfare attached to the upcoming Giants season, basically. You got to put next week's Standards paycheck on them kind of disappointing or maybe even overachieving. Which way would you bet on the Giants? It doesn't feel like they're an inspired group gathering in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, what was it? 81 is where they've kind of been the last 3 seasons in the Zaidi era. Can they do better than that? I think they can do better than that. I don't think they can do dramatically better than that. I think Willie Adames is a very valuable player. Like, that is going to be a difference given kind of what they've had in the past. Just a dynamic personality, just a solid player. You build around guys like that. Can you get Jung-Hoo Lee back in there healthy? Just those 2 guys. I think, I don't know that for sure gets them to 84 or 85, but I think 84 or 85 would be considered a success given where they've been. Do you see kind of an upward trend here? Do you see the pitching staff kind of come together? Just basically, do you see Buster Posey putting together a cohesive idea?
Well, again,
that's all it's going to take. Whether that's 81 wins or 84 wins, even 79, if you see the picture being filled in, that's what it's going to, I think, take for Giants fans. They're not all going to turn on Buster clearly in 1 year, but do you see there is an idea here that is going to build towards something bigger? That's what they lost faith in with Zaidi, and I understood that, even though I like Farhan. I did see a cohesive idea from him. It just didn't work, and I think Posey, you're going to want to see what it is. We're kind of seeing the outlines of it, but they need to set the base. They need to set a foundation, and if you see that this season, whatever the win is, you don't want to see it drop to 70 wins, but if it's in the 80s, I think most people will understand that and then start looking to see what Posey can do in the future.
Didn't you think that Farhan's fatal flaw was that he envisioned baseball with too many moving parts, and you got to have stability, not everywhere, but you got to have at least 4 dudes in your lineup who you do try to trot out there for 150 something games a year. And he just felt like he went out of his way to make sure that there was no full-time player. He went out of his way to make sure that he needed a platoon more than had to employ a platoon. and maybe that's even unfair for me to say.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't say. I don't think he went out of his way. I think he just couldn't put it together, and then thought, you know what, I can just do it this way. I can always just do it this way. And he did not understand how boring it is to watch bad platoons. We have an argument about that once, friendly argument. I just said a bad platoon is the most boring thing in baseball. I've seen the A's do it. I hated when the A's did it. They've had really great platoons too, but bad platoons, there's two mediocre players I don't want to watch. I'd rather just watch one mediocre player, frankly, than two mediocre players, and then put six of them, in the lineup together at one time, then flip it over and have another six mediocre players. He just couldn't. He knew he needed stars. Like, he tried to start. We know he did. Like, we have the list of players that he went after. He just couldn't get them. There was something to do with the salesmanship that didn't quite work. I'll add the Posey was in on some of these pitches, and they didn't go and sign either. But perhaps Posey being the lead negotiator will be better. And yes, there was some lack of interest in putting together foundational. These six players are going to play every day, and then we'll work on the margins. And Farhan just was happy working on the margins at some point, and then could not push the chips in and get the big time guy. He did want them, maybe less than fans would have hoped that he would have wanted them, but he did want them. He did not hit on the draft. That's to me the number one thing. Hunter Bishop over Corbin Carroll. We can go through all there. I name that because certain people get really mad when I do it, but that's what happened in the draft. And he just didn't hit with any of his first. There's the first round picks, other than Patrick Bailey, who was good but not great, had just not come out. If he had hit his first round picks and they were marching through the system or starring on the team right now, the way like the Orioles have done it and a few other teams that we can point to have done it, very different climate around this team. He didn't do it. And he was unpopular for a lot of things. When you're unpopular, you got to win games. And he did not win games. He did not have a through line. I mean, can you imagine if he was the general manager for this team right now? It would be, you talk about a lack of interest, there would be off a cliff.
Yeah.
And they could not survive that. Buster Posey gives fans a reason to believe. It gives clubhouse a little more settled understanding of what their roles are. And I just think that's what they need. They need to be settled this season. They need to go, okay, this is where we are, and this is how we're going to get there step by step. Farhan had lost that storyline, and now they can start it up again with Buster Posey.
It's amazing how not hitting on first-round picks has defined some of these teams around here. Certainly with the 49ers, with the Giants. James Wiseman was a fork in the road that spun the Warriors in the wrong direction for a while. And Tim, all I can tell you is that nothing from you comes on the margins, man. You are an above the fold guest, and I thank you for joining me today. Above the fold, that's an old newspaper term, kids. Yes. Look it up. Tim, thank you very, very much. Best to you. Have a great weekend, and let's check in again in a couple months. Hopefully we can pick your brain again.
Sounds good, Damon. Good to do it.
Thank you so much. Tim Kawakami, the best and the brightest among us, covering Bay Area sports. Loved him. Glad that he could join us today. We thank him very, very much for his time. And yeah, Otis, we're way too into platoons. You're just way too platoonish. Speaking of something else that I have gleaned and glistened from the chat today is our good friend Gina, who was saying good morning and saying hello to Otis. And she says, today is her birthday. Gina, happy birthday. Hold on. Here's the thing. We don't have Tim anymore. I can take these off. And put this on for Gina. Gina's one of our OGs. Gina's been to many Plus Manias. Gina's my kind of gal all the way through. Gina gets a bottle pull on her birthday. Indeed. Gina, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Friday. Why not? Ha-ha. Happy birthday to you, Gina. Thank you for supporting the show so very, very much. We love you. Hope it's a good one. Yeah. Hi, Damon. Hi, Gina. Happy birthday. All right. So, yeah. Bottle pull on Friday, baby. We can do that. We can do that. Love you back, Gina. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, look, it was great having Tim on. That's the man right there. Tim is so connected. He's respected. There's a reason why you don't hear much from owners, but owners will talk to Kawakami because they know that, he moves the needle in this town when it comes to sports. He really does. Last night on TV, though, it was proven once again that nobody moves the needle in sports when he gets cooking like Steph Curry. And all I can tell you is that we live in a time where making sure we appreciate some things means a lot. Look, I got to tell you, very happy to report that Jillian's doing very well at Salesforce, and she got a promotion, and that's great. It's going to mean a little bit more money for the family, which, while I am figuring things out over here on YouTube, every little bit helps, right? I am thrilled that she got the much-deserved promotion just because she deserved it. The money's great, but really an acknowledgement of, we see your hard work, we appreciate your hard work, we appreciate what you do. That to me means an awful lot. It means a lot to her. I think it means an awful lot to all of us. The money, yeah, is how we pay our bills, but feeling like you're appreciated where you work means a lot, means an awful lot. Gina, wait a minute. Wait, Gina. Gina, it's your birthday. I should be sending ganja jar cash to you, Gina. Thank you very, very much. You're a sweetheart. Really appreciate it. By the way, Sons of Johnny LeMaster wants to know, has Tim blocked anyone on YouTube? Probably. It is always Blocktober in the land of Tim Kawakami. Thank you very much, Sons of Johnny LeMaster. By the way, I also saw the very nice compliment you gave to the podcast on Twitter earlier today. So thank you very, very much for the supers, for the support. Means a lot. As I was saying, appreciation means a lot. I want you to go out of your way to appreciate the dwindling number of nights that we have remaining in our lives that felt like last night watching the Golden State Warriors. Look, Steph Curry, 56 points on 12 threes. Every single game that gets into that territory of Curry is doing something here that is abnormal. I mean, it might be normal for Steph Curry, but it's just not normal for, most basketball players. These nights need to be savored. What do you really think? I mean, I'm going to be greedy about it. I'm going to be really greedy about it. How many nights like last night do you think Steph Curry actually has left for us? Do you think he's got 10 more of those in his body? He turns 37 next month. Even 5 more nights like that would be extraordinary. Again, I'm getting greedy. I want 10 more. Give me 10 more nights like that in the 160 regular season games. You might have, how does Steph have 200 regular season games remaining in his career? I hope it's more than that. How many of those games can be played at a level which he reached last night? I don't know. I mean, everybody's tank runs out eventually. Father Time is undefeated. What Steph Curry gave us last night, not only did it help the Warriors, but that is a gift for us as sports fans. You got to appreciate these things. I know you do. I'm preaching to the choir over here, but good God, what we got from Steph Curry, that is the best TV gets. Like, my favorite shows on television are Breaking Bad, The Wire, Deadwood, love those HBO shows, and the Steph Curry show when he's playing like that. Like, who would you rather watch? An Omar-centric episode or a Steph Curry dropping 50? Omar's my favorite character, I think, in the history of entertainment. I will take Steph Curry dropping to 50 because that shit's real. That is really happening. It was just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, you want to talk about entertainers on TV? I agree with you, Chef A. Steph Curry should get an Emmy, Golden Globe Award or something. Do it. Just incredible. The guy is incredible. He's incredible on nights where he's only giving you the usual 25 that you just come to expect. 56. what do you have, 48 at the end of the third quarter or whatever it was? He was just the only reason why why the Warriors were still in that game. While the Orlando Magic came out and they were shooting like 80% in the first quarter. They came out and were, hitting buckets like they were the Harlem Globetrotters. And nobody, not Draymond, not Jimmy Butler, who seemed to be coming along for the ride. And then out of nowhere, Steph is like, all right, flame on. I'm going to fucking do this. And then Quentin Post is like, all right, let's dance. And Quentin Post, after a very pedestrian 2-point first half, had 16 in the second? Quentin Post and Steph Curry won a game for the Golden State Warriors last night. I like Quentin Post. I like Quentin Post. I'm liking the Pajemski that they're now getting. Give me more Moses Moody in this role here. Yes. But God, those nights from Steph Curry, they're just so special. Let's enjoy them while we can. Let's enjoy them while we can. It was awesome. It was freaking awesome. Speaking of awesome, sometimes the best performances in sports happen on the margins. They're not right in front of us. You got to kind of go looking for them, right? How about this for a great story from Durban, South Africa? Dale Whitnell, a golfer you've never heard of, in a tournament you don't care about, that you weren't following, on a European tour that you don't invest any time in at all. Dale Whitnell made 2 holes in one in the same round of the South African Open on Friday. 2 holes in one in the same round. Oh, come on, what are the odds? What are those odds? Have to be in the hundreds of millions, if not all the way graduating to billions, of making 2 holes in run. He aced the par 3 second, and then he aced the par 3 12th hole. This is a 36-year-old golfer we've never heard of before. He's an Englishman. We'll probably never hear of him again, but he was trying to keep his card. He's struggling to make the cut. He is the 545th ranked golfer, and he carded a 9 under 63 when he needed it the most. 2 holes in ones. How about this? Most golfers will never hit 2 holes in ones in their lifetime, much less 2 holes in ones in the same competitive round. I mean, there you go. Have a day, why don't you? Have a day, why don't you? Look, this was a really fun day, and it's been a good week over here on The Plus, and I thank you for liking and subscribing. That is a great way to support the channel, and as you always know, supporting the channel is just as easy as ordering yourself a delicious lunch from Ike's. By the way, I was talking with Team Ike yesterday. We are cooking up something very special in the month of March in terms of a promotion that we're going to be offering Plusers exclusively. No other group is going to hear about it except our little group, and it is going to be an awesome offer that will hopefully get you into an Ike's if you've never been. If it's been a while, it's going to get you back in. So listen to more very special promotions coming up here on The Plus for my buddy Ike's and his delicious sandwiches. My man at the Dubliner, Kenny and Company, got the best Guinness in San Francisco just waiting for you. Come on into the Dubliner West portal. Tell them that Damon Brew sent you. And enjoy your afternoon. A great place to go watch a Warriors game. Great place to go after you've watched a USF game or a Reardon game in the neighborhood. Go check it out. And our good friends over on BetUS are telling you right now that you can add 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 when you use promo code YouTube150 over on BetUS, also powering today's live stream as well. We thank all of them. And I really want to thank all of you for your likes and subscribes as well. This morning, I woke up to the news that we have reached 28,000 subscribers, just went over the 28,000 mark. So thanks to all of you who are subscribing. If you're not, what are you waiting for? At the very least, hit that thumbs up. give me a thumbs up, the like, the subscribes, the memberships if you really want to get nuts. It's all available to you. Little merch is out there for you. Thank you very, very much. By the way, a March Madness Plus Mania would be awesome. Zothmus, you are singing my tune. I think so too. Also, Gina says, thank you all for the birthday wishes. Indeed. Awesome getting a 28K. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you very much, Otis. Thank you, Joe Schmo. Thank you, Erwin. Appreciate all of you. And I want to leave you with a little present of knowledge, which is why we end the show with Today in History. Are you ready? Thanks again to Tim Kawakami for coming on by. You know how I reached out to Tim? I texted him yesterday. I wouldn't have been able to do that, but for the fact telecommunications as we know them have changed an awful lot in our lifetime, but it all started today in 1885. The American Telephone and Telegraph Company, which you know as AT&T, was officially incorporated in New York. It was a subsidiary of American Bell Telephone. Frickin' AT&T. They got me wrapped around their little pinky fingers. They do, those SOBs. Thank you very much. Happy birthday, AT&T. I'd like a rebate. Today in 1940, basketball televised for the very, very first time. It was a game, Fordham University against the University of Pittsburgh. So Fordham versus Pitt happened today in 1940. It was a lot easier to televise a basketball game than it was a baseball game. You needed multiple cameras for that. Boxing, one of the reasons why boxing was so, popular in America is because that was the easiest thing to televise. It was just a teeny tiny ring. But there you go, basketball on TV. And again, without basketball on TV, we wouldn't have been able to appreciate what Steph Curry did for us all last night. Speaking of TV, today in 1983, the final episode of MASH was on the air. It was a 2.5-hour episode, and it was a televised phenomena here in the Bay Area. Televised phenomenon. 77% of all of the televisions in America were watching MASH that night. More than 3 out of every 4 measured televisions was watching MASH that night. So there you go. Be popular, by the way. I liked MASH. It was a little before my time. I was a little young for MASH, but boy, I remember that being a big show. I remember Hawkeye. I remember MASH, and I certainly remember that final episode being a really big deal. And then the final episode of Cheers was going to be the only final episode that could be maybe the final episode to outrate MASH. It was a big deal. Let's see. Today in 1993, that problem in Waco, Texas. Remember the Branch Davidians? Remember the ATF agents going into David Koresh and his sex religious cult got all broken up, and that was bad. 80 people, 22 kids died in a bus that was buried underneath the compound. That was bad. It happened today in 1993 near Waco, Texas. By the way, just as bad, today in 1996, Kiss reunited at the Grammys. That wasn't that bad. I never was a big Kiss guy. But what was bad is when Kiss tried to be rock stars without the makeup. The minute Kiss took the makeup off, everyone was like, ugh, don't do that. Put that makeup back on. They put the makeup back on. Full makeup at the Grammys, Kiss 1996. Finally, today in 2013, Pope Benedict resigned as Pope of the Catholic Church. He was the first Pope to resign since 1415. 1415 is so long ago, it doesn't even sound like a date. It sounds like I'm teaching Jack how to count through the teens on the way to 20. 1415? 1415 is the last time that a pope resigned until 2023 when Pope Benedict, who I think was German, right? I don't care. To me, all popes have thick Italian accents and sound just like Father Guido Sarducci when they talk. So I really hope that when he handed in his papal resignation, he said, I don't want to be the Pope no more. I mean, if you are the Pope, you have to say that out loud on the day you resign. I don't want to be the Pope no more. No more poping. No more poping for me. So there you go. Clutch wants to know, is this History Channel? At the end of the show, you might learn something. We end every show with Today in History. You like, you subscribe, you'll be back for it, Clutch. Also, we always tell you that, when it's a significant national whatever day, like National Chocolate Milkshake Day or National Taco Day, National Cheeseburger Appreciation Day, whatever. Today is the dumbest, I think, of all. That's a national day. Today is Car Keys and Small Change Day. Like, really? Okay. It is Car Keys and Small Change Day. It's celebrated on February 28th each year, and it's an occasion to recognize the practical utility of pockets. Well, then why don't you call it National Pocket Day? How did pockets get fucked over here for car keys and small change? If you're celebrating the pocket, celebrate the pocket. If you want to celebrate the shit you put in your pocket, then celebrate that. Come on. Get your stupid celebration days in order. That's just a little advice from your good friend Damon. Thanks so much to Tim Kawakami for joining us today. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for everyone who watched and enjoyed the videos this week. It's been a nice week for the Blues. Again, over 28,000 subs. Thank you very much. Let's get to 30 as fast as possible. Spread the word, spread the love. And, you're having a little toast for brunch, spread that butter and jam all over, baby. Enjoy yourself. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for the supers. Thanks to all of you for being a part of this, and you really are. You are a part of it. You're not just out there in the audience. You're a living, breathing part of it, and I thank you. And please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, he's gone.